What's going on, guys? I want to fire up the camera, see if I can't bring you up to speed a little bit on a project that I've been working on. It's one I'm really excited about. It's going to be a batch of small fixed blades, or specifically neck knives. That's really how I envision these being used and carried. It's a design I've done a few of in the past. I call my little fella. Though I've kind of tweaked and modified this design just a little bit for this particular batch and application. And there's actually going to be a number of firsts in this batch, from tools to process, to how these are going to be, made and finished. I'm using a couple of newer tools and techniques and processes, and I'm pretty excited about it. I think these are going to be some of my best knives yet. I'm hoping they're my best knives yet. That's kind of my goal with every knife I make, is to be just a little bit better than the last. I can't say with 100% honesty that I always meet that goal, but I really do try, at least to do my best on each knife, and hopefully enough so that it is better than the last, and these will hopefully be no exception. But let me kind of bring you guys up to speed with what we've done thus far and what some of the differences of this batch versus others will be. First thing is, this is going to be the first time I've had another third-party shop cut and profile my blanks for me. Typically, I do that 100% in-house. I've actually got kind of a unique way here lately that I've been doing that. I don't think I've ever seen anybody else really do this. But because I do have a CNC router that I built, I go ahead and typically install a drag bit. It's basically a spring-loaded carbide point that I use to scribe my pattern onto a piece of flat bar stock or steel. And then I will even go as far as to spot drill with the same machine, the pinholes, handle holes, lanyard tube holes. Anywhere there's a hole, I spot on that machine as well. And then I will typically take it over to the bandsaw, the drill press, and do the final cleanup, drilling, profiling, and then go up to those scribe lines on my belt grinder or whatever tool may be necessary. And typically up till now I do all that in-house. Now for these I wanted to try something a little bit different, so I sent my CAD file, my DXF, to Leading Edge Fabricating, or maybe it's Leading Edge Fabrication. I always confuse fabricating or fabrication. They're owned and operated by Mark Vanderwest out of Montague, Michigan. And I've used them a number of times in the past. If you followed me for a long time, they've done a couple of projects for me already. One project they did, in fact, I sent them some material and the CAD files for my 2x72 belt grinder that I designed and built. They cut those for me. They were perfect. Everything went together without a hitch, and I've been using that machine now for years. They also did a scissor project. Did a really small limited run of some AEB-L stainless spring-loaded scissors that I came up with. They did a great job on that. And actually, I need to revisit that project. I've gotten a lot of requests to do some more of those. That'll be one day, hopefully. But they also did a bunch of titanium little cap lifters, bottle openers, some little kind of like multi-tool type things, pendants. So I've used them a lot in the past. Always had a really good experience with them, good pricing, phenomenal turnaround. I mean, next to none. I've said this before, I don't think the turnaround would be any faster if they were down the street from me. Even if my next door neighbor had a laser cutter or a water jet, I'm not sure they'd be as fast as Mark at Leading Edge. This guy is just nuts. And I'll give you kind of the full timeline here. I actually emailed him, it's now Sunday. I emailed him 2 Thursdays ago, so about a week and a half ago, and said, hey, Mark, would you mind giving me a quote for this DXF file? And I don't know if you're going to water jet or laser cut it. I know they had gotten a laser since the last time I'd used them. Typically, Mark had done water jet services for me. But I mentioned, hey, whether you laser or water jet cut it, give me a quote, and let me know what you can do for this. And he got back to me same day, actually, and said, hey, listen, I'm actually on vacation. I'll be back about a week from now, next Thursday. I'll take a look at your files and get you the quote. And like he said, that Thursday that he got back, he sent me an email saying, okay, you know, look at your DXF, this will be the price. He cut them on a Friday. They showed up Saturday. So really couldn't be any happier with that. I will give you guys the pricing, just, you know, let you know a little how the sausage is made. And maybe I'm sharing too much here, but Mark did tell me there is a $250 setup fee regardless. Just to use the laser, it's $250, whether it's one knife or 100, minimum $250. And that's about what all these cost, plus the shipping. So all in for 25 blanks, 80 thousandths thick, AEB-L stainless. In this size, he charged me about $278, $279. And that's not including the price of the material. I actually had that drop shipped from Alpha Knife Supply. I got a piece of 6" by 23.5" AEB-L that I want to say it was like $46, $47. So let's just round both up, you know, $50, $280. That's $330 basically for 25 laser cut blanks. And I mean, they're all perfect, you know, from first to last. Couldn't be happier with them. And so that breaks down to about, give or take, $13 a blade, which that may seem like a lot, but do keep in mind, if I would have started with a larger sheet of steel and got 50 cut out, it would have probably been cheaper per blade. It might have been a little more than the $280 or so that he charged for the 25, but it would have still averaged out as cheaper. It is kind of a quantity, you know, I forget how he used to put it, but an economy of scale, I guess if you want to put it that way. The more you have cut, typically the cheaper per piece. But even at, you know, $12, $13 a blank, I'm actually pretty happy with that. Considering the amount of time it saves me, the wear on my tools, bandsaw blades, you know, to have everything cut perfectly and consistently to where I can just more or less start working on them and finishing them. I'd say it's well worth the price of admission. And I'd say you'd be hard-pressed to find a much better deal than what they were charging. They're definitely on the lower end of, you know, industry standard, in my opinion. So that's just some info on that. Now, I will say, just as a tip, any of the holes that I have for handle, like screws or standoff spacers, lanyard tubes, I did undersize by about 10 thousandths of what I wanted them to be. So I wanted these finished at 1/4 inch or 250 thou. I sent the file with 240 thousandths for the holes so that I could ream to final roundness and shape. Not that the laser wouldn't have been accurate enough, it probably would have, but it is typically encouraged, you know, to drill and ream to final size if you've got slots or holes or that sort of thing, where something needs to fit into another part. Not that you have to do that all the time, but it's a good practice. So 240 thousandths, 10 thou undersized, and then I just reamed to size with a carbide reamer. And you do want to use carbide for hardenable steels, particularly air hardening steels, because you do have a heat affected zone. Although it's really not obvious, everything's really clean. There's no like scorch or burn marks or discoloration. But there is a heat affected zone when using a laser. It's not going to be full hardness, but it does skate a file a little bit, and it will wear out regular high-speed tooling pretty quickly. Not that you can't ream or drill it, but you're going to struggle. So I do encourage carbide. That's what I used. You know, 3 times 25, that's 75 holes, ream to size. Very quick, very easy. And then I actually used a high-speed countersink to just lightly chamfer the corner of each edge. And then I'm going to finish that up with just kind of deburring, polishing the flats on each side, but before I wrap them in some stainless tool wrap and prep for heat treating. So that's kind of brought you up to speed on where we're at right now. So my next part, again, we're going to just clean up the flats, polish them a little bit in their annealed state. They won't wear the paper out quite as much. And what I'm actually using for that, it's kind of a new setup I just came up with. using some aluminum flat bar or bar stock. I've got some 3-inch wide by 1/2-inch thick aluminum. I meant to cut this so it'd use a full sheet of Rhino Wet 9x11. For some reason, I guess I had 9x9 or 9x10 in my head. I cut this a little bit short. So this is 30 inches long. Should have probably been 33 inches long at least, if not just around 36. But what I did, I made it to where I could cut a 9x11 sheet into thirds and then just adhere that to here. Now I have 30 inches of flat or relatively flat abrasive to kind of clean up my flats and edges. And then I've got this little setup here on the edge of my workbench. It's got kind of a guide fence on one side. I can tighten these down. And then I use that with this fixture here, this little piece of some 1-inch thick HDPE that I went ahead and made this little pin holder. This is just some 1/4-inch lanyard tube. But basically what I did here, I basically lined up my blank onto this HDPE so that it would be kind of straight and parallel with the edge. And then I drilled through some positioning holes. I actually pressed in a couple of neodymium magnets just to kind of help hold the blade on there to keep from falling off. And then I made this little pin block here that goes in, and it goes about halfway into the handle blink, and that keeps this from moving, sliding back and forth on here. And now I can hold my blank like this very comfortably and basically just clean and deburr. I got 30 inches to kind of hand rub and clean and get some really uniform finishing on the flats of these blades. Now, it might be a little more efficient if I start at the disc grinder. I can take that over there and just flatten these out real quick and then bring them back over here just to clean them up. I also typically use this. I got some 409 stone and steel cleaner in here just to kind of wet the paper and keep it cleared a little bit better. But this will just help really flatten and clean up these flats before heat treat. Then I'll probably hit them one more time after heat treat. And so nice, pretty uniform, flat and polished. And then when I'm done, by the way, on the other side, I can just pop this off, pop this out, move it to the other side. Now I can go from the other side, polishing and cleaning this up. And this is something that's kind of new. I'm kind of experimenting with it. Like I said, I could have made it a little bit longer. So now each time I do have to cut off about, a 3x3 square paper. No big deal. I'll save that for hand sanding or something. But one thing I was thinking, I could even put 3 different grits, side by side. And just using short strokes, I can go maybe from 400, 600, 800. That sort of thing. So it's got some potential there. And theoretically, I could even put paper on both sides of the aluminum. Now keep in mind, this isn't going to be as flat as like a piece of glass or granite necessarily, but it's pretty stinking flat, especially for shorter blades like this. It's going to be just fine. And I'm not even pressing down that hard, just letting the paper do the work. And if I wear out one side, normally I have this tightened down a little more, but I could just flip the whole thing over like this. Normally I just kind of put the very corner of the paper underneath the edge guide here. And go back to it. And then when I'm done, because I'm using some feathering adhesive, and this paper peels right off, And I could just add a brand new piece of paper. Like so. I've even got this roller to kind of help even things out. And granted, it's taken quite a bit of that adhesive up with it, but normally I get about, you know, one paper change before I need to start adding some adhesive. So, like I said, and for this, I just use a guillotine style paper cutter to cut the rhino wet. These are red line sheets. Cut them into thirds. And then I do just trim that last 3 inches off because I'm a dummy and I measured the wrong length on this. But yeah, so far I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, I may need some tweaks and adjustments. Normally I do put that edge right under that guide there, and I could tighten this back up if I need to. Wet it down just a little bit. And just a light polishing. So I figured I'd show you guys that little tip. And like I said, if you want to flip the side over, just a matter of putting that through to the other side. Yeah, I'm going to go through, finish going through these. Again, this is just to kind of prep for heat treat. I just want to knock really any burrs from the chamfer off or any other little burrs that'll keep these from sitting perfectly flat between my aluminum plates. These are going to be heat treated here in the house. I still got to go get a few liters of liquid nitrogen. Excuse me, and probably going to fill about 20 or 30 liters. I got a 35 liter Duar. I think I'm probably only going to ask for maybe 20 liters because I don't have too many blades past this. I don't necessarily need to fill it all the way to the top, and these are small enough. You know, that'll be plenty to fully submerge it and maybe save me a little bit. And I'll see how long that lasts as kind of a baseline for everything. But the other thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to do individual foil packets. I think I'm actually going to, at the very least, do 2, maybe side by side, if not end to end. My plates are big enough for that. Maybe I may even try to do 4, though I'm not sure. I'm going to have to kind of experiment a little bit. What I don't want to happen is them to shift inside the thing, and then when I try to quench them, they're sitting like this or something. So I may just do 2 end to end. That's probably what I'm going to try this time. We'll see. Or I might do 4 and then fold them over, and then I can unfold them real quick and press them. I might try that one time. That way I can do 4 at a time. Be less time opening and closing the oven. But yeah, I'm really happy with the results I'm getting for this little sanding station here. And it may be even better if I start on the disc sander you know, get it flat first and then come finish up here, maybe even a higher grit. That's something I'm going to have to kind of experiment with a little bit in the future. But yeah, that's, you know, no fish hooks, nice and even and consistent. And it's one of those things too, you don't necessarily have to stay on the edge guide or the fence here. I kind of turn it and get like the whole width of the paper, or start on this edge kind of out in the open and then just finish, you know, up against the edge where it's nice and straight and consistent. So that's just something I was kind of thinking about putting together for a while. Finally did, and I'm pretty happy with it. And like I said, I'm not going to get super crazy like getting these just mirror polished or finished before heat treat. So we'll kind of see how that goes. By the way, see if I can lift these up without dropping everything. Here's my little blade holders I'm using. I got this idea from Jess Hoffman, or J Hoffman Knives, on Instagram. He's a maker I've only recently heard about. He's a fellow Midwest knife maker from Southeast Wisconsin, I believe. Actually heard about him on the Crafted Edge podcast, which is a new podcast I've just discovered as well. It's on Spotify. I believe it's on YouTube as well. It's 3 knife makers, Joey, Don, and Tippy. I believe most or all of them are down south, Texas, maybe Georgia or Carolinas. I forget. I've only just started listening to them. I can't even remember their last names, unfortunately. But it seemed like really good guys, good knife makers. I'm only about 10 or 12 episodes in, but they do share their socials, I believe, in each episode. So check out the Crafted Edge podcast. Check out those makers. I think the podcast, it's about a year old. I don't know how many episodes they have altogether. I think it's been a little while since their last one. But I'm going through the backlog now, and we'll kind of see. Maybe they'll update it sooner than later. But I've really been enjoying that. Learning about some new makers in the process that I haven't heard of. And just some really good content, good wholesome content. I encourage you guys to check out the Crafted Edge podcast. But yeah, I got these holders I put together just real quick on my table saw out of some, obviously they're meant to stay flat on a table. Just some scrap MDF though on the table saw. I made them in just a couple of minutes, and they're just a good way to kind of keep things straight and organized. And what I'm actually doing as I finish a process, I'm just rotating the blade the opposite way or flipping it, you know, edge up or edge down, just to show that the next one's ready. And it's really kind of helping me, you know, keep things in order a little bit better as I do these. And here's the other set. So 25 altogether. Hopefully it'll be 25 in, 25 out. We'll see how things go. But like I said, this is kind of the intro video. There's actually quite a bit more that's going to be going on with these. And I'll do a little bit of filming as we go, a little bit of pictures. But I do have some new tools, some new processes. One of which is actually going to be a fiber laser. I did finally go ahead and pull the trigger on kind of an entry level. It's not the one I necessarily wanted. And there'll be more content about this. But it's the one I could reasonably feel comfortable spending money on. So it's about maybe a quarter of the price of the one I would have liked to go to, or at least a third of the price, I should say. And we'll get more into that in another video. But I'm going to be using that for the Maker's Mark. Got some new materials I'm going to try out. It's a company called Vibe Composites. They make some really vibrant linen micarta and similar, so I'm excited to try them out. The handles are going to be CNC milled for the most part. Probably hand finished, but CNC milled to start. They're going to be a screw together design, and I'm also going to be trying a sheath mold for these. I'm going to try to make a split mold specifically for this design, to where hopefully instead of making one sheath for one knife at a time, I can make one that'll fit any of them. And that's how consistent I'm going to try to be on these, handle, blade-wise. We'll see how that goes. If it doesn't work, I'll go back to my typical method, but this is hopefully to increase not only efficiency, but quality as well. So that's going to be kind of a new first there. I also ended up getting a die polishing, like a handheld die lapper, or air lapper, they sometimes call them. I'll have another video on that. It's an ultrasonic polisher, basically, relatively inexpensive for the one I got. And I'm going to try that, maybe on some finishes. May even be trying an acid-etched stone wash. That'll be a new thing. We'll see. I'm still toying with how exactly I want to finish some or all of these. So, that'll be some future content as well. Like I said, I'm hoping it's 25 knives to start, 25 knives to end. Hopefully we don't have any casualties as we're trying some of these new things out. May even try them on some other blades first that I've already got heat treated of a different design. We'll see. Those may be the throwaways for us. But anyway, lots of stuff to look forward to. Lots of things going on. Let's see where we're at time-wise for this video. Yeah, we'll keep it under half an hour. Hopefully some of you guys are as excited about this project as I am. It's definitely going to be an undertaking. And I'm not sure I'm even going to finish these all like at once and try to drop all 24, 25 at once. I probably will be keeping at least one for myself. We'll see kind of how they turn out. But if things go well on this batch, I may do a second. We'll just kind of see how they finish, how they sell. Still kind of hemming and hawing on pricing just a little bit. I really want to hopefully keep these under $200 a knife. We're going to kind of have to see how everything ends up. Like I said, we're already about $13 into it already. And that's not even including, I've got hardware that I bought, the sheath, the handle material. There's a lot to figure on here, not to mention my time and everything else. So we'll see. But they're going to be reasonable for what they are. And I think they're going to be really good, really well finished knives when it's all said and done, that I'm going to be really proud of. And hopefully you guys will too. So call this video one. I'm not sure what the next part will be. Probably something to do with heat treat. I'll probably do another video on that. I also want to try to get this laser set up, maybe start experimenting with that. Though it's not going to be used on these knives till the very end. And that'll be a little bit of a pucker factor, I'm sure. Once everything's completely finished, the last step very most likely will be the laser etch, if not the second to last step. But we'll kind of see how it looks as we experiment with that. But I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be a learning curve, learning process. But we're not going to settle for anything less than something I'm proud to have my name on. So whether that's one knife out of the 25 or all 25 remains to be seen. Hopefully it's at least one though, right? So that's it, guys. As always, I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching with me. I know this one was a little bit on the longer side. We'll try to make the rest of them a little bit shorter. But hopefully I can share some tips and tricks with you guys. We can learn together. And if you guys have any advice along the way, any questions, concerns, feedback, by all means, you know where to leave it, right in that comment bar below. And like I always say, we'll see you guys on the next one.